Today we're going to be talking about jail hacks, mostly the communication aspect of jail hacking, and I'll get into that in a bit. But first, who am I? My name is Jaime Cochran. I'm a cyber bully because I have Twitter and use it to troll, which is evil, obviously, so I'm a terrible person. Also an ethics enthusiast. Noise musician, and I make abhorrent, terrible music that no one would ever listen to, which also makes me a terrible person. Starving computer hacker artist. If you guys want to give me some bitcoins, that'd be fantastic. Yeah, an occasional bartender, and I like to write exploits when I'm not busy bartending on my phone. It's really fun. If you've never used GDB on your phone, you're missing out. Sorry. I'm also an employee of a publishing company, Libre Jocher Incorporated. They own everything, including the speech, slides, and any comments you make during which this presentation is being presented. I'm also a writer for the Internet Chronicle, which is also owned by Libre Jocher. And as you can see, one of our journalists was detained at Heathrow this past week by Libre Jocher Incorporated. So yeah, that's just me in a nutshell. So what do you consider jail hacks? For me, it's basically just finding creative methods to circumvent the strangleholds being put on prisoners to, give them some more free speech. And as hackers, we can do this a number of ways. And for other people, it means breaking out of jail. But I'll show you some examples of that, but I'm not going to tell people how to break out of jail. Sorry. But most of us, if you've been around long enough, you probably know some people who've gone to jail for hacking, and it's tough, especially they're not able to communicate as effectively as other people because their privileges have been revoked for whatever reasons. But we'll get into that. Can a whole prison get a Darwin Award? This particular instance of a jail hack happened recently in Australia in a town aptly titled Darwin. The prison handed out inmate handbooks to all incoming inmates, and on the cover was two keys crossed like this. They're actual composites of the master key that unlocked every single door in the prison. And so a jeweler, in this case, I consider him a hardware hacker, carved one out of stone and passed it to his neighboring cell person, and because he couldn't reach the lock himself, and he would try it and be like, okay, I need to work on this a little bit in this area, passed it back, and eventually he got it right, broke out of prison, and it was like a 15-day manhunt for this guy. I don't know, it's pretty hilarious. This one's awesome. If you've ever heard of John Dillinger, he's a famous American bank robber from the 30s. And yeah, he got arrested in Indiana and he whittled a wooden gun and painted it black and used it to hold guards hostage and escape from prison. That is fucking hilarious. I'm sorry. And there was the sheriff, Sheriff Holly, and she said before, I know he's a bad baby and a jailbreaker, but I can handle him. Afterwards, if I ever see John Dillinger, I'll shoot him dead with my own pistol. This is too ridiculous to talk about. Because it really is pretty ridiculous. Another jail hack is a priest, John Gerard, was being incarcerated in the Tower of London, and he used invisible ink from an orange to communicate with his cohorts outside, and enabling his escape from prison, which is pretty cool because it's so novel to us nowadays. I mean, I remember making invisible ink when I was a kid out of like lime juice, you know? And back then, like no one had any idea. This is my favorite, Timothy Leary's last stage of detention. So Timothy Leary was a professor and psychologist, a very prominent one, in the 50s all the way up to the 80s, I guess, when he died. But he was a huge proponent of LSD and was arrested for having a couple joints or a couple roaches or something like that. But the thing they didn't realize is that before he got heavily involved into drugs and the counterculture, he actually wrote the test that new inmates would take for placements insofar as where you would go from minimum security, maximum security, wherever, and what job you would have. So he cheated the system because it was his test. He knew exactly what to put down. He got a gardening duty where he got 5 hours of sun a day and clearly looked at everything as far as fences, rooftops, just ways to escape. And so yeah, he eventually made a fantastic escape with the help of the Weather Underground, and it was a leftist extremist group around that time. I think it was 1973 when this happened. So yeah, that one's pretty good. Yeah, so present day. You guys might recognize him. You might hate him. You might like him, totally fair. Is anyone familiar with Weave's case? Say most people are. Well, he's in prison for hacking AT&T, and he's a noted internet troll. So he's always looking to push buttons and do all that annoying shit. But yeah, as soon as he gets into prison, he was sentenced in March. As soon as he gets into prison, he's already just making waves with annoying the federal government, the Federal Bureau of Prisons in the United States. And yeah, so there's a prison messaging system that prisoners can use called TrueLinks. TrueLinks is the inmate interface, and CoreLinks is the outsider interface, the user interface that I could send messages back and forth with him. So at first he was tweeting out, he and Meredith Patterson set up keywords that would be like, okay, once I say this keyword, the next sentence is going to be a tweet that I want you to tweet out. And so they did that a lot for maybe a month or so. And then they cut off his email. I don't know why he even had email in the first place, considering he was a computer crime. Weird. So what do? You can still make phone calls. And with friends who know a lot about computers and phone systems, you can do some fun stuff. So we have PBXs. Anyone can set up an asterisk box. It's pretty easy. So I spent some time combing over the Federal Bureau of Prisons PDFs and all of their documents as far as their regulations go, and Brooklyn MDC's documentation. And none of it explicitly forbid interaction with a computer via telephone. Although I had a friend, my friend Sneak, he said that he found documentation that said it did, but he never showed me, so. Either way, I enlisted the help of a friend of mine, Kevin Gallagher. He runs the PBX for his company, and so I knew somebody who knew little things about asterisks. So we got ourselves a cheap SIP trunk and a VPS, and I forget where, and a Google Voice number, and went to town, So yeah, when you get a call from an inmate in America, there's about 10 seconds of a message that says, you are receiving a call from the Federal Bureau of Prisons from Andrew. If you'd like to accept, press 5. So it's about 10 seconds long. And so we just put a wait 10 seconds in the asterisk and sent the dial tone for 5 and then began recording. So I wrote a script that would take the file that was recorded and upload it to SoundCloud automatically. And we thought about it, I was gonna have it tweet out too, but in case somebody actually found the number, they would be like, all right, sweet, I can tweet from Weave's account. So that's a bad idea. So we did that manually. However, the recording in the PBX was all automated. And I'm sorry, but the code is super 0-day, the 20 lines of Python, so I'm not gonna see it. But yeah, it worked. Sorry about this GIF. It's supposed to be MC Hammer dancing, but it showed up really bad. Regardless, he got about 4 calls through, and people were pretty entertained, and it was neat, But then we started to get other calls to the PBX. After his final message, we got about 3 calls, 1 from the Federal Bureau of Prisons, 2 from the US government. And I was kind of bummed they didn't leave any messages. That would have been funny. They left one that was just white noise, and I was pretty bummed. Regardless, we knew what was going to happen next, and we couldn't find Weave for, I don't know, maybe a month. He was shuffled around prisons for a while, which is a common tactic as punishment, I suppose, which is pretty cruel. I mean, you can't settle down anywhere, and no one knows where you are, and you can't make phone calls except to your lawyer. It's really fucked up. And it's odd because there's people who have done pretty much the same thing, except not automated like we did. Mumia Abu-Jamal, for example, who's a Black Panthers activist. He was sent to jail, I think, in the 80s for supposedly killing a police officer. He's a writer, and there's a lot of controversy around his case. But he's had his own radio show from death row for fucking years. And they don't put him in 30 days of administrative segregation. I don't get it. Maybe it's because it's automated and people fear that kind of thing. Regardless, you can go to prisonradio.org and listen to other people who are incarcerated that might have something important to say, because, I mean, these people are human beings, you know. Moving forward, there's always snail mail. And the lackeys at the prison system don't always, they might read the mail. I mean, I've gotten letters from him and they're ripped wide open. But I mean, they're not cryptographers. They're not like looking at like even simple like ways of communicating. So, I mean, you can do a number of things, like predetermine, like, if I send, like, X amount of money to the commissary, he'd be able to see that and would be able to authenticate that I was going to receive a message. And so he would write something and include that amount of somewhere that amounts like $25 in his letter, so I knew it was legit from him. And so then I would know to decode like maybe like the first syllable of every word of the first sentence, something like that, you know, and sending secret messages like that. It's totally sweet idea. Should all do it. Moving forward, there's the Mitnick effect. And the PBX thing got me thinking. If you might remember, when Kevin Mitnick was incarcerated, he wasn't allowed to make phone calls because they believed that he could whistle nuclear launch codes, which is absolutely absurd. Back then. Nowadays, I mean, nowadays with PBXs, I mean, anybody could set one up, and with modules like voice to text, you can pretty much construct an entire, like a massive program with a bunch of functions that could do a lot of crazy things. So I started looking into this. First I found Simon Listens, which is it's good software, but it wasn't exactly what I'm looking for. And I found the voice to command money shot. Pocket Sphinx is a lightweight C library to execute commands when phrases are spoken. So if you wanted to have a function that tweets out what you say, you know, like my example here is, it's very inconspicuous. So you call the PBX and say like, hello, 44 con kicks ass. And hello would be recognized as a string. And if it's the first word, then, you know, C would call the function for hello, which is to tweet. And then the rest of the string would be passed to that argument, passed as an argument and tweeted out. And that's pretty fucking cool. And I mean, it's not only prisoners who can do this kind of stuff, but you could have a fully functional like tool set from prison to interface with just by a phone. Yeah, you could run a botnet from prison if you wanted to. I don't know why you would want to do that, because you'd probably just get fucked anyways. But if you integrate these kind of things with more advanced, like maybe set up the PBX to act like an answering machine, so it's not as it's more inconspicuous. You know, it's not as obvious as like just talking to white noise. You know. And yeah, or you could have fake conversations with friends and kind of pull that stuff off. But yeah, I thought about actually doing like an interactive bash shell, like voice to text, text to voice, and that was like the worst idea ever. Be like stuck in regex hell for a long fucking time. So I think this Pocket Sphinx library is actually very, very, very fucking cool. So yeah, fuck yeah. Yeah, other stuff that people have done. War driving prisons for fun. I thought about doing it, and I was like, you know, I'm not getting paid to do this by the prison. It's probably a bad idea. But they might use like old protocols like DECT. From an outsider's perspective, this is kind of interesting stuff. And of course, there's Tiffany Rad's PLC, SCADA research that basically, you know, ripped open the prison security systems because they're all like networked to the internet from the inside out, which is totally retarded, but I'm sure they're still doing it. Yeah, that's about it. So remember that the Chronicle.su is your only reliable news source. And yeah, any questions?
When you had the Pocket Sphinx system set up, did it last?
Well, he hasn't had phone, his phone privileges got revoked, but it would work for someone who isn't as brash or someone more inconspicuous than Weave. I think you could probably pull it off pretty easily. Yes?
Have you considered using something like, say, have him write? Sorry, have you considered having Weave maybe draw or write on paper and have an automated thing that would scan it in and then upload it to script as a way of him communicating?
I've thought about things like that. Perhaps like in a snail mail, like bash interaction. I mean, he's got all the time in the world, and if you could automate that process, I mean, it wouldn't be too hard. But yeah, there's other things like one of our friends, Chris Angle, he sent out, or he wrote a program that takes all of his mentions and sends them to him weekly, which is pretty cool. Yeah. And fax machines? I don't think so, at least not in the States. That'd be interesting. Anything else?
You look at VLC?
Looked at VLC. Is visible light communication. It'd be hard to pull off just because a prisoner wouldn't be able to have hardware to use VLC. And the light probably would not reach them unless they were outside. I mean, it's good for building to building kind of things, but I doubt VLC would be effective unless there's some sort of breakthrough in that technology. But it's still very, very young. I did look at Vanek freaking, just like trying to get a look at, which would be kind of cool to check out the monitors of prison guards and see what they're doing, but I figured that was probably a bad idea too. But yeah. All right, thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
Hi there. This is going to be short and sweet because I know where you all want to go. So, day one is almost done. Have you had fun? Excellent. That was the reaction I wanted. That's good. Right. A number of you weren't here today, and to save me getting loads of questions this evening, this stuff is from last year's incident where I was knocked off my bike. So, no, it's not new. Yes, it still hurts. Yes, I am getting better. Done. And yeah, we are suing his ass. Second thing, the slides have stopped. Okay. That's kind of amusing. We had to have emergency surgery of the Nerf weaponry earlier, so a number of speakers were actually not dicing with death. They were just dicing with something that just buzzed. Sadly, the speaker that took the risk was Ben Gassi, and he got shot. So those of you that witnessed it, I know there are a lot of videos going to be happening on YouTube. Hilarious. But the parts actually came for lunchtime. There was then a manic gluing session. And screwing session, and Dave did a wonderful job. So congratulations, and thanks very much, Dave. It's going to be busy tomorrow, I can tell. Thanks for talking to the sponsors. We've got some great pictures of just hordes of you just going to stands and talking to people. I must say, please keep talking to the sponsors, because it is what it is. We can't do an event here in London without them. If you haven't been to the NCC stand, and this is where I really am missing my slides, we've got 300 plus plays of the game they've got on the back, and the top scorer is actually a member of the crew so far. So can you all play tomorrow and knock him off, please, that top position? Because that's not on. He can't win the prize. Or you could just knock him off tonight. Yeah, you could. He's the one with the sore throat. Okay. So, the CTF, and this is where a slide would be useful. There is a distinct, clear top team, but they've been docked points because they haven't followed the rules. If you DDoS or DOS your opponents in any way, i.e. you get onto their VM and start deleting stuff, you lose points for rule compliance. And they lost, they're down to 71% on rule compliance. Sadly, they're at 100% for offense, 100% for defense, so this takes them down to 91%-ish, which isn't too bad. The great news, though, is there is a team in second place that's catching up fast. At 5 o'clock, they had 82% defensive points, so they can probably close that up tomorrow morning. And they're the only team, other than the first place team, that have scored any offensive points at all. And they've done all of them in the last hour. So I will have an update tomorrow morning, hopefully with the slides that work. But Fisher Price, work hard, because you can probably do it, because they haven't lost any points for rule compliance. The big gap is they've got no advisory points, and that's actually common to all the other teams. So you've got to get better at finding the things and then writing them up and then submitting them. It's documentation during the game. It's a full-featured CTF with bonus points. So workshops are kind of popular. As some of you who've been to workshops have probably guessed, it's a good idea to turn up with a laptop because they're a workshop, not a lecture. And so the How to Assess and Secure iOS workshop was full, and they decided who to throw out. But, well, they basically picked people who didn't have laptops. It was easy because you couldn't do the workshop properly. The other workshop that really has done well is the Tamagotchi one. All of the Tamagotchi kits sold off the front desk, so thank you all very much for buying those kits. She actually walked those through Heathrow yesterday, and we were a little bit nervous that the suitcase was going to get tagged in some way. So, so that's quite good. So yeah, bring your laptops tomorrow. A PC World's open in the morning. Go get a sacrificial netbook if you're worried or whatever. 5 p.m. bar report. This is not good. This is really not good. The target Guinness for today was 88 pints to get through a whole barrel. We didn't even do half a barrel. We did 20 pints. Well, I know, but it means tomorrow you've got to drink 66 pints of Guinness. Thank you. Because now that barrel's been opened, we're kind of stuck with it, right? We probably won't open the second one unless you turn up with 88 people wanting a pint. I think that's similar. Oh yeah, be responsible, please. If you're driving, please have a designated driver. Do not drink if you're driving. Yeah, mind you, I believe you can fly quite drunk nowadays, so it's kind of okay. Yeah, not if you're the pilot, obviously. The most popular bottle, and it's a very close thing between the Alhambra lager and the IPA. That's pretty interesting. Yeah. So fans of the IPA, wave your hands. Okay, fans of the Alhambra, wave your hands. That's pretty close. Okay. Not that the beer will get an award tomorrow for winning, but maybe we'll use that beer as a prize. Who knows if we've got any left. Penultimate thing, feedback forms. We do need them. You will get tokens in exchange for them, and we have lots of prizes to give away tomorrow night, but not if you don't have the tokens. So please fill those in and return them tomorrow. Just before the close is good to the front desk, or we will have people coming through the room at the start of the closing thing tomorrow to pick them all up. They are on the front desk. Okay. And they arrived a bit late, so we couldn't hand them out with the handbooks. In fact, printers being late are the bane of my... Yes, printers going to get a nasty phone call on Monday. Right, and the slide I really wanted to show now is tonight, because tonight is party night, and you know what happens. MWR, being very friendly, neighbourly people, buy an obscene amount of booze, they invite us to a nice room, and then they challenge us to drink it all. We did last year. In fact, we didn't just drink that bar dry, we drank 3 bars dry. We actually had ops managers running between all of the hotel bars and anywhere else he could find. And I think last year it was 700 bottles of beer and 20-odd bottles of spirits. So the bar has been restocked. There is going to be some food. There is lots of free booze. There are going to be some awesome tunes. There's going to be You Good People. And so good times. There's 2 DJs. And when is it? 7 o'clock, so 20 minutes from now is the start. And where do you go? You go out the front here, go through the front door of the hotel, turn left, go up the stairs, and that's where it is. Sorry? Follow the line. Just follow the line. It'll be fine. And that you might hear the music. Just keep going. It'll be good. I think it's scheduled to finish at 11. Well, we'll see, I guess. You do need your 44Con badge to get in. I know there have been postcards flitted around, but it is 44 Con lanyard, badge only entry. And that's it. So thank you very much for coming, and great day one. Tomorrow morning, we are opening the doors at 8:30. I am going to be doing the opening at 9:20, when I should have some CTF stats that are worth looking at, because I think it's running overnight as well. Whoops. Could be interesting. And then the first talk tomorrow is at 9:30. Because last year, you all held your hand up saying you wanted a later start. So you've got one. Enjoy.